So round 16 of the Prem has just finished. And by my reckoning, we have still very much got 7 teams who are capable of making the playoffs and winning this trophy. Incredibly exciting, incredibly tight season in the Premiership this year. And in this video, I'm going to take a look at the fixtures that are left and give you my predictions for who's going to make the playoffs. Currently sitting top of the table is Northampton Saints. And they've been pretty much sitting top of the table for most of the season. They've got 2 games left in the Prem, but before that, they've got an incredibly exciting but possibly difficult European Champions Cup fixture away, or at least in Dublin at Croke Park against Leinster. So let's have a look at their run-in. They've got Gloucester at home, followed by Bath away on the last day. I probably think Northampton have already done enough to get into the playoffs, but yeah, let's see what kind of impact still being in that Champions Cup has on them. Then currently sitting second, we've got Saracens. Saracens had a great win away at Bath on Friday night and have kind of pushed their way back to second. They drifted away a few weeks ago, but yeah, they've got a couple of games to kind of really, I guess, cement that playoff place. And they have, first of all, got a very difficult game at Bristol away, followed by a repeat of last year's final with Sale at home. So it'll be interesting to see how Saracens get on there. Can they provide any sort of great fanfare for those players that are leaving? So the likes of Owen Farrell and the Vinopola brothers. Moving into third, we've got Bath there. Again, they've had a good season. They've really come on under the stewardship of Finn Russell, albeit he's injured at the moment. But I'm sure they'll be hoping to get him back should they make the playoffs. And their run-in is an interesting one. First of all, they have got Newcastle away, followed by Northampton Saints at home. So I guess a real mix of a run in there, but they'll be pushing hard to get back into those playoff places and sort of re-establish some of that glory that's been missing for the last 6 or 7 years. Then in fourth, we've got more teams from the southwest. We have got Bristol. And what a barnstorming second half to the season they've had. They're probably the absolute form team at the moment in the Prem. Can't stop scoring tries, looking brilliant. Again, they had a great comeback win at the weekend against Leicester. And their run-in is an interesting one. So they've got Saracens at home. And then that is followed by Harlequins away. And it could be that Quins-Bristol game that really does decide 1 or 2 of those playoff places. But yeah, that should be a thriller at the Stoop. So really looking forward to that one. And then in fifth, we've got Quins. So just talked about Bristol going to Quins' last game of the season. And Quins' other game is Exeter away. So 2 tricky ties there. Not a shoe-in for Quins at all. And also, Quins have got that semi-final of the Champions Cup coming up next weekend. So, it'll be really interesting to see how they go against Toulouse and what that means for the rest of their season in the Prem. Then in 6th place, currently, we've got Sale. Now, from a Sale perspective, this season's been quite disappointing, compared to last season. They've really struggled to impose themselves on matches and probably really struggled to score enough points as well. But they're still in there with a chance. So let's see who they've got. So they've got Leicester at home, followed by Saracens away. So it will be interesting to see how they get on there. If I'm honest, I'm not feeling too confident for Sale. I'm not sure they're looking their sparkling best like they were last season, but they've got their foot in the game still, if that's a saying, or the foot in the door. So yeah, interesting to see how they go. And then moving on to the last team that I see being in contention of the Premiership this season, Exeter. I mean, what a great start they had to the season. They were firing on all cylinders. They had massive wins against, I think it was both Saracens and Sale at the start of the season. They looked red hot with that group of young players, starting to slip off a little bit now. Those dalliances in the knockout rounds of the Champions Cup might have been taking their toll. But let's look at who they've got to go up against in the run-in. And they've got Quins at home, followed by Leicester away. So potentially 2 winnable games there. So yeah, it makes it very interesting. And I'd love to hear, how fascinating you have found the Premiership this season. I mean, I love this whole branding around the the running piece that Prem Rugby have put together, that makes it quite exciting. But just as a competition, it's been just really open. Yeah, with teams just been able to absolutely beat each other week on week, with the exception of, I would say, Newcastle and Gloucester. Newcastle, very dismal season. But yeah, love to know what you think. Have you enjoyed this season? Who do you think is going to win the playoffs as well? Who's going to get there and who's going to win? And as ever, while you're there, if you're happy to give me a like or a thumbs up, or subscribe, that would be very much appreciated. Any support I can get will be just absolutely brilliant. So we've looked at who's left in the competition, who's the real sort of runners and riders, who's got a chance still. And now I'm going to go on to my piece of prediction. So I've looked at the remaining fixtures and I've worked out who I think is going to win and lose each game. And then we'll take a look at my predicted final table. So round 17. So we've got Newcastle versus Bath. I'm seeing that as a Bath bonus point win. We've also got Sale versus Tigers, and I'm seeing that as a Sales bonus point win. Bristol Saracens. Now, this is going to be a fascinating matchup, but I have to say, I think Bristol are just going to be a little too hot for Saracens at the moment down at Ashton Gate, and I'm seeing Bristol with a bonus point win. But I am seeing Saracens will probably come away with a bonus point as well. And it will be so fascinating. These little bonus points that teams have picked up along the way can have such a difference or make such a difference at this time of the season. So the final two games for round 17, we've got Saints versus Gloucester. And although Saints will have played that Champions Cup semi-final the weekend before, Gloucester have also got their Challenge Cup semi-final the weekend before. And I think both teams will be on a little bit of a come down after that. Probably not putting their fully loaded sides out, but I still see Saints coming away with a bonus point win there. Then the final game in round 16 is Exeter versus Harlequins. And I think, given Harlequins Champions Cup semi-final the weekend before, whilst they'll be wanting to push on both fronts, I think that's going to take something out of them. And I think they'll probably be not putting their fully loaded team out against Exeter. So I can see that going Exeter's way with a bonus point win. But I'm pretty sure whoever Quinn's put in that team, they'll muster something up bonus point wise. They're likely to get 4 tries. They just play that kind of rugby. So let's jump into round 18. So the final round of this season and see what's going on there. And what a fascinating day this is going to be. I think all the games kick off at the same time. So all 3:05 on that final. I think it's the Saturday, the 18th. But yeah, first game we've got is Bath versus Saints. And I think for a lot of people, they've probably been predicting that could well be the final. And I just think this is where Saints will have already landed their home playoff place and therefore will be resting players left, right and centre. So I see Bath coming through that one and winning it, which will be great for them to get full points in the last game of the season. We then got Gloucester Newcastle. Nothing really much on that match. I see a resounding Gloucester win. And unfortunately for Newcastle, I see them going winless this season in the Prem, which is a real shame. And probably, as a group of players, they won't want to see that happen. They'll be hurting. But, a lack of investment in that club, brings its own results. So whilst I think Steve Diamond will probably go on to turn things around a little bit at Newcastle, I don't think it's going to be happening this season. Then we've got another absolute humdinger of a tie. We have got Quins versus Bristol. And for me, Bristol's form at the moment and their ability to kind of throw the ball around, find gaps and score points for fun. Obviously, they're going up against Quins who do something very similar. But again, I just wonder whether Quins kind of pushing forward on both fronts on the European and the Prem, it might just be a bridge too far for them there. And I see Bristol coming away with the win there. Probably a bonus point win and probably a Harlequins bonus point as well in defeat. Then we got Tigers versus Chiefs. Again, tough place to go for Chiefs. A young squad. Leicester, I think, will probably be a bit disappointed with their season and will want to go out on a high in front of what is always a pretty big crowd up at their stadium. And I see that being a Leicester win. And possibly Exeter getting a bonus point. But yeah, they're not going to go there and win that one, I don't think. I think this is where Exeter's season will just run out of puff. But what a platform that young squad has built for next season. And then final game, the repeat of last season's final, Saracens versus Sale. Now, I think Saracens at home are what would be potentially Farrell and Vinipola's last home games for Saracens. They'll just be too strong for Sale. I think they'll score too many points. Sale have been a little bit low on the point scoring this season, and I think it'll just end up with a bonus point win for Saracens. So that's how I see all the games going. Again, love to know what you think. Do you think I'm talking sense? Do you think I'm talking rubbish? Who would your predictions be? But if I apply all of those results to a forecasted table for how it would end up looking at the end of the season, what we get is Northampton Saints finishing top, and probably deservedly so, because they have been the best team this season. They would be on 61 points, closely followed by Bath, who, again, they've had a great season. And, you know, if they manage to do this while Finn's still not fit, that will be even more of an accomplishment for them. I see them finishing on second in 60. Then their West Country rivals, Bristol, I see coming third on 59. And what an elevation this has been for Bristol. You know, they've come from, I think they were languished around 8th, maybe 9th for parts of the season. Couldn't really buy a win for the first 4 or 5 games. And it's just been absolutely relentless stuff pretty much for the last, I don't know, sort of 3 or 4 months. So I see them coming third. So just missing out on a home semi. And then just kind of filling that last place, kind of scraping in a little bit, would be Saracens in 4th on 57. And I think that would probably be a fair reflection on Saracens' season. It's been a bit up and down. They've played some great stuff. They've also played some terrible stuff and been dismantled a couple of times. Not so much in the league, but certainly in Europe. So that's the top 4. Sale and Exeter kind of making up, Quins, Sale and Exeter making up the next 3 positions, all with very creditable seasons. But yeah, that would give us a matchup of Saints versus Saracens in the first playoff, and then Bath versus Bristol in the second playoff. Now, I know who I think are going to win those games. I'd love to know who you think is going to win those games. But I just think if it pans out that way, we could be seeing some big surprises here, because I think Bristol have definitely got enough about them to go down to the Rec and Bath and win, particularly if Finn Russell is not back. And I think from a Northampton point of view, you know, they beat Saracens pretty comfortably up at their place earlier this season, but you just could never write Saracens off. And I think there'll be a lot of hunger in that Saracens group just to make something special happen. So I could actually see, for what I think would probably be the first time ever in Prem playoff history, is potentially 2 away semi-final wins. But hey, this is my conjecture. This is my predictions. Love to know what yours are. While you're taking making a comment, please do a like and a subscribe. It'll be much appreciated. And I can't wait to see how this all unfolds. And I hope you're looking forward to it too. All right. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.